Deadpool, New Mutants, and the X-Men themselves are all returning to theatres in 2018, but not in the order you might expect. I'm Alicia Malone. This is Screen Junkies News. Over the weekend, Fox solidified dates for not one or two, but three upcoming mutant-centric films for 2018. The Merc with a Mouth himself will be returning to theatres on June 1st, 2018, and on November 2nd, we'll be getting X-Men Dark Phoenix. But before either of those, audiences will be seeing Josh Boone's long-gestating New Mutants film on April 13th. New Mutants before Deadpool 2 and Dark Phoenix? Well, we hear you, and here with me to discuss are David Griffin, Dan Murrell, and over on social is Victor Torres. How's it going?
Good.
So, yeah, Dan, this is quite confusing to have New Mutants before Deadpool 2, considering we don't know anything about New Mutants. It's a bit quick.
Well, yeah, we knew we were getting both. I think that most people thought that we would be getting Deadpool as a way to introduce Cable, and then Cable then spinning off into New Mutants. So now we find out that we're getting the New Mutants first. Kind of spins everything around on its head, and that's not even mentioning the X-Men, which we'll talk about. Yeah, this is my guess would be either they are hastily rushing this into production, which is, I mean, they are at least physical production, but hopefully when we say it's a long gestating script, it has been gestating well, because I mean it's going to open in less than a year, and they haven't shot a frame of this movie yet that we know of. So any movie, a 1-year calendar, unless you're making the tiniest of indies, any movie, a 1-year calendar from having not shot a frame to release, that is a tight schedule. So it's very surprising to hear that it's coming out, and it's coming out when, less than a year from now.
Yeah, and Josh Boone has been very active on social media talking about it. Do you think that he has been, planning this, and he's got maybe more happening than we might expect?
I'm sure he does. The biggest question with all of these franchises is timeline. I mean, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Disney side of things, it seems like they have their timeline set in place. The Fox, and that seems to jump around a little bit. Logan takes place in its own world. Legion on FX takes place in its own world. I mean, they're all in different areas. So I'm curious to see what timeline they're going to follow, because if you follow the comic books, Chris Claremont in '82, when he did the New Mutants, it led up to X-Force, and also led up to the first appearance of Deadpool. So is this going to take place before, the Ryan Reynolds that we know, or are they going to kind of tie it all in together?
Well, the X-Men timeline, I mean, you never know where they're going to go.
They should all be in their own timeline.
Yeah, who knows? We've tried to figure it out, and we failed. Dan, we've heard casting rumors previously for New Mutants, people like Anya Taylor-Joy from The Witch and Alexandra Shipp. Do you think some of those might come to fruition?
Yeah, well, Alexandra Shipp, who, X-Men Apocalypse kind of being, regardless of quality at the box office, a little bit meh in the middle, kind of threw a lot into question. Alexandra Shipp, who I thought was, I really wish they'd given her more to do as Storm in X-Men Apocalypse. I think she was a good Storm. I hope they keep the 80s Mohawk look. I like that version of Storm.
She looks cool.
I think she looks really cool. I was reading that Sophie Turner is going to be coming back as Jean Grey, which I guess is really no big surprise. But yeah, what they really need to do is start locking this stuff down quickly, because I like the idea of a lot of the cast of the new X-Men movie, but I think they all got kind of overwhelmed and swallowed by the spectacle and Apocalypse and Fassbender and McAvoy, and those new cast members were kind of marginalized. So I'm excited by a lot of these ideas. The real thing, it's not just casting, though. You have to give them something to do. And I hope that they don't get swallowed up again with the bigger things going on. If you're going to do X-Men, if you're going to do New Mutants, a team-based thing, gives a team something to do.
I know, it's always great when you have this young cast that you can use to advantage and explore their characters. And also, David, in the comics, Cable reorganized New Mutants into X-Force, and we already know that Cable's going to be in Deadpool 2. So does that mean he's also going to be in New Mutants?
Oh, definitely.
Brolin?
I think we talked about Josh Brolin having like a 4-picture deal. When they sign up for these franchises, they're signing up for multiple years. So I think we're going to see him. I'm excited that we got Josh Brolin. All that mystery. Remember before the casting was announced, that might be maybe Michael Shannon, maybe Brad Pitt. That artwork with Brad Pitt on it looked great. So I'm glad that we're getting Josh Brolin, and I think he's definitely going to be in there, because he when X-Force is formed, I think at that point Cable was a leader. So I think that would be a good way to lead into the X-Force story, which I think out of all this new slate, I'm mostly excited for the X-Force film.
I love, them teasing each other on Instagram, like you see this, just meditating. And I can't wait to see Deadpool 2. And, the first movie made so much money in February. Now, David, it's going to be in summer territory. Does that mean it is going to be this big blockbuster now?
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of worries me a little bit. I think it'll be successful financially because the first one was so successful. But yeah, why not keep it in February? Because February and January are kind of considered the dumping grounds. Usually you get the kind of Valentine's Day romantic flicks. Sometimes you get some gems. You'll get a Split. You'll get a Get Out. Every now and by Jordan Peele. You get a few of those. But for the most part, you get a lot of these kind of quiet movies that don't make as much money. So if they release it in February, why not? I think it would blow up.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I kind of like the idea of Deadpool kind of given its February slot. The summer thing is, it's right now it's on a date that doesn't have a movie, but the fact of the matter is that Deadpool is going to be R-rated.
True. Yeah.
So who's to say that another studio is not going to put in a family movie, an animated film, so counter programming to put another movie in there, and all of a sudden you've got competition. Plus the competition that the summer is instead of 5 summer blockbusters now we have 15 or 20 it seems like, and so it's a little surprising to me that they would move Deadpool into the summer proving ground. However, this is not either for good reasons or bad reasons. They've had a little bit more trouble kickstarting the second one as far as finding the right directing combo, so if they're taking more time to get it right, that's fine. It's just it'll be surprising to see, or interesting to see, if it can compete in the summer movie space as well as it did in February, where it essentially had very little. It had counter programming competition, but certainly not the stuff that's going to be coming up before and after it in the summer.
It's weird because what is the summer anymore now? It feels like March this year was huge. Okay, Logan and Ghost in the Shell. What is the summer?
I don't think there is that. But it does seem very Deadpool-esque to be in February, kind of subverting that summer blockbuster. But of course now it was a huge success. It's probably going to be another huge success. We've got also Dark Phoenix. Now this is going to be interesting to see who directs this movie, because Dan, we've got Bryan Singer doing the Rami Malek Bohemian Rhapsody film that's going to drop next Christmas. Do you think it'll be Bryan Singer returning? Do you think it'll be Simon Kinberg?
I guess Bryan Singer's just not destined to direct a Dark Phoenix movie. I don't know. It's he didn't direct The Last Stand. They had to get Ratner at the last minute because he went to do Superman Returns. Neither one of them really turned out well, so I think that's kind of a wash. It's really more surprising to me that we're doing Dark Phoenix again. I mean, especially because we're in a space with the comic book movies where even the biggest comic book movie fan is saying hey, let's innovate here. Let's try something new. Let's do something different. And we're about to go back to Dark Phoenix. It was just done in 2006 with The Last Stand. It wasn't done very well. But the real thing for me is that Dark Phoenix is kind of the culmination of a pretty big arc with Jean Grey. A lot of it has to do with the relationship between her and Cyclops, Scott Summers, and we don't have any of that. We barely met her in the last movie. She showed off the Phoenix powers. She really has no relationship currently with Scott Summers, or really, we don't see her any ties with any of those X-Men. So she's such at a disconnect, and we just met her, and so much of that is having stakes in her and who she is, and that story. It reminds me a little bit of what they did with Star Trek Into Darkness, where that was the second movie of a new reboot, and it asked you to buy into this huge friendship between Kirk and Spock, where that iteration of those characters had not earned that yet.
Yeah.
And for Star Trek fans, particularly like myself, that was not a very good payoff. That really didn't work because they did that story way too soon. It did not pay off the relationship between those characters because they hadn't established that. And I'm very skeptical of another Dark Phoenix because the last one we had didn't work very well. And I'm not saying you can never do it again, but you really need to build up to that and establish those relationships, because so much of the weight of that story, I think, lies in those relationships.
Yeah, it seems like it comes out of such a place of pain and anger, and there's so much to it.
Or it's just going to be another apocalypse where it's just big things flying around the air all over the world, and flames and a couple of things. And I mean, the big grand scale destruction is getting so tiring, and it's really what can you put behind it? And I hope they prove me wrong. I hope they go in and write a great Dark Phoenix movie and one that's worthy of the characters and one that actually works. But I'm skeptical. Again, I'm skeptical.
It always comes down to story. David, do you want to see Dark Phoenix with Sophie Turner?
I do want to see Dark Phoenix with Sophie Turner. I actually think it would work better on the small screen. We know that Bryan Singer is developing an X-Men series for Fox. He's probably going to direct the pilot. I think we got to see in Legion this season a whole 8 episodes of just being inside David's mind, you know, supposedly Professor Xavier's son. And I think if they spent more time, like Dan said, developing those characters, I think it's just too soon. I agree with Dan. It's too soon to have your next big X-Men film outside of Mutants and X-Force be the Dark Phoenix saga. It's too soon, unless this is part 1 of a couple more films down the road. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah.
So, Victor, we have a question for social media about who people would like to see direct Dark Phoenix. What are people saying?
It's all over the place, which is awesome. So Nolan Dean says the Duffer Brothers. They prove themselves capable to write young characters in dark tones as well. Delicia Russell says, lost it there for a sec. How about Jennifer Kent? Give the Phoenix that slight horror element of why Jean would be dangerous in this form. Nathaniel Chun says, after what he was capable to do in Logan, I would love to see what James Mangold would accomplish with this property. And my personal favorite, Sebastian J. Hughes says, Denis Villeneuve for some Arrival-like sci-fi and great character development.
No.
That'll never happen, but I would love it if he came to direct.
Just Denis Villeneuve
Phoenix.
for everything.
Yeah, for everything from now until the end of time, I'm okay with.
He can do any genre, and he's brilliant, so I can't wait to see that. Thank you, Victor.
Thank you.
And thank you, Dan Murrell and David Griffin, for talking me through
Anytime.
X-Men.
Yeah, thank you.
And we want to know from you guys, who would you like to see direct Dark Phoenix? And do you want Cable to be seen in New Mutants as well as Deadpool? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to tweet us at SJ News. I almost said at Leash Malone, at SJ News. Click over here for more good stuff from SJ News, and we will see you soon. Bye.